Um, I will share the book. Let me just where is share screen? Um, okay, I think we were just in the last sentence.
No, in first page, and some would detect.
Here, okay. Let me just. Marianne, you need to unmute.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes. Yeah, I was planning that you guide us.
Oh,
It's okay.
oh, oh. I'm happy to do that, Josefina.
Okay, so.
All right, I will read the first paragraph myself. Some would detect here a return of the repressed. These sacred texts and inspired writings express and reveal the collective unconscious of a people or group. Thus, these rejected gospels reappearing in our time would be manifestations of a return of Christianity's repressed material. Since this is short, I'll add the next sentence as well. They are often called apocryphal, meaning hidden or secret. The original Greek word, as evidenced in the prefix apo, means under, underneath the scriptures. Do we want to
Just
highlight any words or phrases here?
Reveal the collective unconscious of people or group.
return of the repressed.
Underneath the scriptures.
A return of Christianity's repressed material.
Reflections?
No, I love this of the return of Christianity's repressed material. That it's coming in the moment that people are ready to receive this collective unconscious teachings that I would say that were repressed or I don't know, guarded, or why didn't it come before, but now they're starting to come out. Because I think people, or I myself, I never believed the story of Jesus as the canonicals, because I always told my mother, I remember she was a preacher, and I said, but it can't be only sin. It's everything is sinful. I can't do anything because you're in sin, you're sinful, you're whatever. No, there must be something else. But we didn't know about this. She knew about Thomas Merton. She studied Thomas Merton. She taught C.S. Lewis and many other Christian authors, and excellent. And something needed to appear, something more.
Should we keep going? Josefina, do you want to do the next? paragraph?
Yeah. Similarly, that which we call unconscious or subconscious refers to what is underneath consciousness and may secretly influence or direct this so-called consciousness. In this sense, we might also speak of these as unconscious gospels, for their language is in fact closer to that of dreams than of history and reason, which we have come to associate with so-called canonical gospels. The latter were put to effective use in building church institutions that staked a claim, so to speak, on the entire territory of Christianity, fencing in a land that was originally open and free.
Words or phrases for this paragraph?
Fencing in a land that was originally open and free.
For their language is in fact closer to that of dreams than of history and reason.
May secretly influence or direct this so-called consciousness.
The whole last sentence, but I'll go for building church institutions that fenced in a land that was originally open and free. And I'm taking institutions in a very negative sense there.
We received, I think yesterday, or within the last few days, a mailing from Center for Action and Contemplation that was asking for donation, but the writing that went with it was so interesting, talking again about Richard Rohr's position of being on the inside of the outside, and like his, and it also spoke about the fact that he recently, Richard Rohr, had an opportunity to visit with Pope Francis, and that the original Francis was himself working on the inside of the outside. So his building of his little church, which he began to eventually discover God didn't mean him just to build the physical church, but to build a whole new way of the church's being in the world. And right now his original little church has become, and I've never been to Assisi, so I don't know what it looks like, but it's a little portion of the inside of an enormous cathedral there, as though the institution has wanted to co-opt everything and put those strict walls around it again, but Francis was trying to push back against this this structure. And I'm bringing it up because it was just a powerful piece when I read it yesterday, and I thought that is exactly my relationship with the institutional church of which I'm part. I'm in it, but I'm very much on the outside of the inside, and I have no interest whatsoever in being part of the structure, which back many years ago I was, but right now I want to be on the outside of the inside, or the inside of the outside, however you want to put it. I'm at the edges of the institution. I don't have any interest in being in the center.
Yeah, I read the newsletter and I was really impressed too and happy that Pope Francis repeat 3 times to Father Richard Rohr to continue what he's doing, that he's in the right path. I mean, it was very, I cannot explain, but it was really inside of me. Just was very moving moment.
Now, the others of you, did you get this? If not, we can send it.
Mhm.
Marianne, you got it.
Yeah.
And Cornelia, you got it, or you probably will get it.
I got it, but I haven't read it.
Read it.
Okay.
And Julie, did you get it? I can't tell if she's in the shadows or not. Okay.
Tilly, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Did you receive the newsletter from the Center of Action and Contemplation?
If I did, I don't remember it.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm taking a 6-session class. I may have mentioned this last week, called Wrestling with the Truth of Colonization. And this last sentence it echoes what happened in North America when white settlers displaced the indigenous peoples who did not fence the land and began this same enclosure, staking a claim. So I'm just struck by the parallel between what is being pointed out here in the church and what happened on the land here in North America.
And I've been reading, Marianne, a little bit more about what happened under colonialism in Africa, which was precisely the same thing.
Raul, you wanna? Is there more on this paragraph, or are we ready to move on? Okay, Raul, maybe.
It is not my intention to set the canonical and the apocryphal Gospels against each other, nor to privilege one over the others. My aim is to read them together, to hold the manifest together with the hidden, the allowed with the forbidden, the conscious with the unconscious. Should I keep going? Are they connected?
They feel a little separate to me.
Okay.
Of course, with my background in psychology, I'm really struck by the psychological metaphor being used here of integrating the conscious and the unconscious. But also the importance of not putting them in some kind of polarized opposition.
I see this part of not in polarity, but as what Cynthia talks about in or Gurdjieff about the affirming and the denying, and reading both. Something a third will enter, which reconciles the two.
Josephina, do you want to read the next one?
Yeah. It is interesting that the Church of Rome's current official list of approved biblical scripture was established only in the 16th century at the Council of Trent. It was not until the 18th century that Ludovico Muratori discovered a Latin document in Milan containing a list of books that had been considered acceptable to the Church of Rome much earlier, around 180 current era. Now known as the Muratori Canon, it represents a consensus of that period as to which books were considered canonical. From the Greek canon, a word originally meaning reed, and then ruler or rule. I think we can read the next paragraph, okay? Thus the canonical gospel are those that conform to the rule, and the apocryphal gospels are those judged not to conform to it. The function of this rule is obviously to establish or maintain the power of those who made it. This was not a process that happened overnight. A significant feature of the Muratori Canon is that it allowed usage of the Apocalypse of Peter, which was later excluded from the Roman canon. Other Gospels, such as the Gospel of Peter, were considered canonical by some Syrian churches until sometime in the 3rd century.
If we stop there, I find the phrase, let's see, to establish or maintain the power of those who made it.
Right.
Really significant.
I had no idea that the canon was so late, and I never heard about the Muratori canon before.
Either.
So late. So 16th century, and that's about the time the church was beginning to split up with its Reformation. I don't remember exactly when Martin Luther was, but it's somewhere around that period of time, 1500 something. We should know because a couple of years ago was the celebration of Martin Luther. But so then if we think about, my history is very sketchy, but the history of what was going on in Europe anyway at that time,
I don't know, but just for me, I saw that the books were separated before. Okay, that I had that idea. I never thought I was in the 16th century.
Oh, the books were separated before. It was the document that was found then. It was the document that pointed to this Muratori canon was found in the 18th century.
But fascinating to me that it was 1600 years after Jesus at the Council of Trent when this list was established as being the true one and only.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Council of Trent was in the 300s, right?
No, it
Not according to
says
this thing.
in the 16th century. That
Okay, so I'm confusing Trent and the Nicene Council. That was in around three or 400.
somewhere in there. The
Yeah,
creed.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
So,
Oh, go ahead, Barbara.
well, yeah, the thought that I didn't quite finish before is to think about what was going on in Europe in the 1500s, which is 16th century. To think about who the power brokers were when this list was established. The rule of the canonical gospels certainly was designed to establish or maintain the power of those who made it. I mean, it was a pretty cutthroat time, I think. But I don't remember my history back then. It just didn't mean much when I was, years ago taking history.
Well, here's what I found on the Council of Trent. It was the formal Roman Catholic reply to the doctrinal challenges of the Protestant Reformation. It served to define Catholic doctrine and made sweeping decrees on self-reform, helping to revitalize the Roman Catholic Church in the face of Protestant expansion.
And what year, Tilly?
Well, it doesn't tell me in this description. Let's see.
From 1545 to 1563.
Thank you.
Cornelia, would you read the next paragraph?
Though there are those who are disturbed by this indeterminacy in the origins of Christianity, yet the coming to light of these ancient apocryphal writings, on the contrary, should remind us of the richness and freedom of those origins. If becoming a truly adult human being means taking responsibility for the unconsciousness which presides over most of our conscious actions, then perhaps now is the time for Christianity to become truly adult. It now has the opportunity to welcome these gospels, thereby welcoming into consciousness that which has been repressed by our culture. Our culture now has a chance to integrate, alongside its historical, rational, more or less masculine values, those other dimensions that are more mystical, imaginary, imaginal, in a word, feminine, always virginal, always fertile. The figure of Miriam of Magdala, so often misunderstood and misused, now begins to reveal the full scope of her archetypal dimension.
Truly adult human being stands out for me.
taking responsibility for the unconsciousness.
Our culture now has a chance to integrate.
The truly adult human being.
Welcoming into consciousness that which has been repressed by our culture.
Those other dimensions that are more mystical, imaginary, and imaginal. In a word, feminine, always virginal, always fertile. And the figure of Miriam of Magdala, so often misunderstood and misused, now begins to reveal the full scope of her archetypal dimension.
It strikes me here that the welcoming into consciousness, it makes me feel or sense that there is something within me that is hidden, that it comes from centuries, way back. That reminds something, but because of the culture things, it couldn't come to the consciousness. And reading this is like welcoming something that is within, that is coming out, and it's coming to the conscious part.
Well, it's interesting because for me, these books are very much oriented toward the feminine.
Tilly, did you get that feeling with Thomas?
I think so.
I have felt that, Marianne. Yes. And I think that's why they hid it. It's hidden. I think there's a powerful, not because of gender. I'm not talking here of gender. I'm talking about this part of the mystical, imaginary, imaginal that is within, that it was repressed because it has a lot of power.
Well, and I think we see that in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, don't we?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In thinking about Thomas, my first take was, well, Miriam is only in a couple of the theologians, but there are many others where Jesus gives voice to he's pointing to masculine and feminine, even though those aren't quite the words necessarily. But what is the theologian where he says the two shall become one? Yeah, so it's there. Do we want to do any more with this, or are we ready to go on?
Well, let me just, my comment would be that only that for those of us who grew up within the careful confines of what the institution.
We cannot hear you, Barbara.
I said, for having grown up within the careful confines of what the institutional church taught, it's hard to break through that that calcareous structure, shall we say. It's hard to be able to gain the freedom because the whole realm of the mystical, imaginary, imaginal, creative, intuitive, that was never something that was part of my growing up. It's been very hard to begin to claim that. Very hard.
Can I say something, Barbara? This morning, I was wondering. That's me. The thing I felt was when I was talking, when I was just thinking of the second body or the resurrected body of Christ. And when people talk about people that are having these dreams or that can see visions, how do you call that? I forgot the name of the people that can know what you're thinking, can see the future, let's say, in a way. But I was wondering if those people have a deeper knowing or have something more, and that's why they burnt them. But they burnt women because women, we have that intuition part, the intuition, let's say, to and that's why we were burned in those times. And I was thinking of the second body as being that this resurrected body, which becomes very intuitive. It has another dimension, and that's why we couldn't. They didn't let this part. They maintain it down.
So parents would have said to their girl children or their boy children if they were beginning to get strange ideas, don't say that, don't say that, just because they didn't want their children to end up burned at the stake. Be culturally acceptable. Don't step out of bounds.
The same thing happened with the communities of Beguine women. That flourished for a time, and then the institutional church put a stop to. And one of their leaders, I'm forgetting her first name, but it's of Porret, was burned at the stake, if I remember correctly. Does anybody remember her full name? No.
No, but I've heard that thousands of women were burned at the stake. It wasn't one or two.
Yeah. No, I'm just focusing on the Beguines here.
Yeah.
Well, now I see the part of the why big tech. I'm gonna say to big tech, it's keeping us or whatever institution is keeping us down on that part. I mean, it's not permitting, it's not allowing this intuitive part of it, or this imaginary, imaginal, mystical part to come. And I see it in religion part of it. They're taking religion to the justice part, to make it all about justice and about, because people go over there instead of going into this material, which is go deeper.
The words that jump out to me is, thus it was apparently a group of Orthodox monks who saved these texts suspected of being heretical from destruction.
Oh, you're in the next paragraph, Tilly.
Yeah.
You want to read that one for us?
Sure. These Gospels were discovered by Egyptian Fellahin, less than 40 miles north of Luxor, on the south bank of the Nile, in the area of Nag Hammadi, at the foot of the Jabal at Tarif, in the vicinity of the ancient monastic community of Kenoboska, Jan, I have no idea what that word is. It was there that some of the earliest monastic communities of Saint Pachomius order were founded, and this collection of manuscripts must have been buried sometime during the 4th century CE. Thus, it was apparently a group of Orthodox monks who saved these texts, suspected of being heretical, from destruction.
A group of Orthodox monks who saved these texts.
Anybody know anything about Saint Pachomius?
Never heard of them.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, that's all for me too.
But I'm thinking about monks. I mean, these are the folks whose
Orthodox.
Orthodox, well, it doesn't matter, but Orthodox monks whose lives are dedicated to being in communion with God. I would think they would begin to have some what the institutional church would consider kind of strange ideas, because they're by presenting themselves to God are being in a space where God can begin to do this kind of work on their insides, on their perceptions of reality, their understandings, yeah.
I think that's the blessing of these books, is that they have come into being so that we see why people thought that these should be saved.
And destroyed.
Yeah, I'm grateful they didn't get destroyed.
It says that San Pachomius, probably born c. 290, probably in Upper Egypt, died 346, feast day May 9, one of the Desert Fathers and founder of Christian Cenobitic, which is communal, monasticism. The rule book of observances for monks is the earliest extant.
So he would have been by 300 years a predecessor of Benedictine.
Hmm.
And we know, I don't happen to have any collections from the Desert Fathers or Mothers, but I've read them in the past, some of them. And that's such a rich, rich heritage. So Pachomius is in that line of richness, which is kind of on the wild side, shall we say? Not tamed.
Well, just the fact that they were out in the desert. I mean, yeah, you get the picture of the unfenced landscape that they went to.
And this part of the community, very important. I think today is very important community, to form community.
Cornelia, you want to read the next paragraph?
We must bear in mind the context of theological and especially Christological crisis that tormented the Christianity of this era. These monks may have buried these priceless texts in order to protect them from the Inquisition by the Monophysite hierarchy, which claimed that Christ has only one nature, the divine. His humanity the hierarchy said, was only a passive instrument used by that divinity. In contrast to this, Orthodoxy maintained that Jesus Christ was both truly God and truly human, meaning he was fully human being with a sexual body, a soul, and a spirit, soma, psyche, nous. His intimacy with Miriam of Magdala was evidence of his fullness.
That paragraph is really a mouthful.
So Tilly, pick out one or two words, or three or four or five or six.
Well, what really struck me was the claim that Christ has only one nature, the divine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why that speaks to me is in the spiritual disciplines that I've been trained in. The acceptance of Christ as divine and human is critically important. And I think it's interesting that they chose to emphasize that in what they saved.
And I didn't realize there was an inquisition by the monophysite hierarchy.
You need to talk
Hear you.
loud.
If my computer gets turned, it's because of two people trying to share this and the connections and stuff. I mean, I didn't know there was a monophysite, or how it's pronounced, hierarchy, but I guess that's no surprise. That's why there was the hammering out of these things with the creeds, and that there was an inquisition by this monophysite hierarchy. Like, wow. I'm also reminded of the fact that we're our current rector is leading Bible study on the letters of John, and the first letter of John says essentially, pay attention, because I was there and I know Jesus in his physicality. I've touched him, I've heard him, I know the physical reality of this person. It was apparently an attempt to claim this because there ended up being these doubts in the early community about what the true nature of Jesus was. So I'm hearing Marty in my and First John as I read this.
I can't help but bring in the controversial text, the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, because in some circles, researchers are convinced that that was written by Mary Magdalene, and that the Gospel of John that we have in the canonical literature, which would include the first chapter that you're referencing, Barbara, was actually a redacted version of the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. And I find it so fascinating that that's even a possibility being discussed. That John could actually have been a text originally written by Mary Magdalene.
This is the Gospel of John by Mary?
No,
is that what you're saying?
The Gospel of the Beloved Companion is the name of this text.
Right, but the thought is that the Gospel of John is a redacted version?
of
Because
that text. Yeah.
okay, what I was referencing was the with the letters of John, 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation. The first letter of John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
okay. It's all right. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Yeah. I did not know about the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, so thank you.
I really recommend that people take a look at it. It's a fascinating thing to consider.
I heard Cynthia once that she called the person or called I don't know if it's a sister or that has the original of Beloved Companion, but they didn't let her see it and they didn't let her, so
Right.
they haven't been able to know if it's
Right.
a real text or not, and they don't want to bring it out.
They explain the author that published the Gospel of the Beloved Companion in the beginning of the text explains why that is so, and essentially it's because it was protected by the Cathar community, and we know what happened, that the institutional church was so threatened by that community and apparently this text that they had a particular crusade and just about wiped all of them off the face of the earth. And so their thinking is it's too dangerous to reveal this document. And all of this is explained in the book itself. Her last name is DeQuillen, DeQuillen.
And it also this paragraph, the last part, his intimacy with Miriam of Magdala was evidence of this fullness. But I don't see I don't see it as Miriam of Magdala, Mary Magdalene. I don't see her as we don't know if they had a sexual or not a sexual relationship, but this text brings me more as a fullness with that feminine the archetype of feminine, that relation.
Are we ready to go on? Raoul, you want to read that one?
I wanted to say something to Cornelia, and that is that I don't know if it's accurate to talk about his intimacy as being sexual.
Yeah, exactly, Tilly. That's why I said we don't know. We'll never know.
Right.
But what I think is that the relationship I'm talking about is more in it's more interior, it's more deep. It's within a feminine, what you talk about, the feminine archetypal, the mystical, that part, that relationship.
But it is an intriguing thought to consider.
Which the physical intimacy,
Yes.
or yeah, that's scary, and that's what people jump to. But I'm aware of that other kind of intimacy, having experienced that a couple of times, of an incredible deep intimacy, which is not romantic, but it's immensely intimate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen very often, but it happens.
And I also think, Barbara, that's part of all this part of that of the monophysite hierarchy, the one of of that part of the church. I think that's why it brought so much now all this part of the children of the sexual part of the pedophiles and happening in the church because they never allowed the other nature out. So in a way for me they had to in some way they were doing it, but they couldn't say they grab a child or they grab women and no one knew.
And because we've repressed it, this is for Marianne, I guess, we've repressed all that stuff so far down under that we can't conceive of an intimacy that's not sexual. But it's crazy to think of an adult knowing that kind of deep intimacy that Jesus and Mary had. An adult and a child, that doesn't work. That's a power over kind of thing. It would have to be people at the same level who would be able to experience that deep kind of intimacy that we see with Jesus and Mary.
And that's why the last part of Thomas Keating before dying, when he died, when he wrote the part of the secret embrace, I think that is that intimacy. He experienced.
I'm sorry, repeat that, Cornelia. What did he?
The last letters of Thomas Keating, when he wrote The Secret Embrace.
Uh-huh.
So about Barbara, what she's talking about, this intimacy. And I think he experienced that intimacy, but spoke about a secret embrace. It was a deep, deep, deep relationship with Christ.
Okay.
Those were the poems that he wrote, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but he was talking another kind of intimacy. It was more mystical, love, unity, non-dual is the experience. We are talking, I think, just something different.
No, I think that what you're talking, Josefina, I think that is part of Barbara's intimacy of it is a deep, it's unitive, it's all the words you said.
Okay.
It's Thomas Merton at the corner
But
of.
it's an embrace because her in Cynthia's second body, she talks about this embrace that you feel you are totally, it's in an intimate relationship with that Christ consciousness that we can't express it.
Okay.
But
It's Thomas Merton at the corner of 4th and Walnut in downtown Louisville, Kentucky.
Also.
When I suddenly realized that I love all these people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To finish off this part of the introduction, may it have been that these texts were threatened not only by elements of the orthodoxy, as has often been claimed, but also by the monophysites, who were shocked by certain details evoking the incarnation of the Word with a realism that was too explicit for them? This human body that spoke and taught was also a body that loved, and not merely with a chaste platonic love, but with all the sensual and psychic presence of a biblical love. Okay, now I'm confused because he's now talking about these texts were threatened by the orthodoxy when a few minutes ago they were being protected by at least a part of the orthodoxy.
But that was a particular monastery of Orthodox people who had a broader vision. They were in a monastic community.
Okay.
Could I raise well, does anybody want to comment otherwise on this paragraph first?
Only in a negative sort of way, in our human tendency to put down, really, really put down that which we cannot understand. I can't understand it, therefore I'll kill them because they're too threatening to me because I cannot achieve whatever it is that they've achieved. I mean, that seems to me how we, as individuals in this crazy culture, often proceed.
So I was just going to check in with everybody about pacing, because Josephina raised the question that at our current pace, it could take us a couple of months to get through this introduction. Now, I personally feel okay with that, but it may not be okay for everybody. I find our reflections rich and interesting, but it will take us a couple of months. It's over 30 pages long. So I'm just wondering how you are feeling about what we're doing.
Our previous study at church, don't even remember what it was, our rector planned
James?
to have it take 4 weeks and it took 20. And I think we've already been 5 weeks on the beginning little bit of the first letter of John, and he thought we'd be all done with that part of it anyway, certainly by the end of the first day. But what I think I've observed to be true there, and I think here also, is that when we're free to think these things through with all of the not only the thinking brain, but trying to use the more intuitiveness and putting stuff together that we've individually never put together before, it's opening up a lot of possibilities for me. So I'm enjoying the slow pace.
I'm finding the history fascinating.
Me too.
Stuff that I have never heard of and know nothing about. But then, which of course brings up the question: is this accepted history, or is this his own version? I mean, But I'm enjoying reading this again. Not that I haven't been around much. I'm enjoying reading what we've read today.
Josephina, we went a little faster this week. How do you feel with this pace?
No, it's I brought the because I was really worried about just the amount of time that is planning to take us, but I think just we are able just to discuss and get things more deeply just with a discussion. Probably just I am not in the same preparation that all of you, so that is the reason, but it's okay. Let's just continue in the way that we are doing and try to get the things. I know that this author, he did a translation, but he did not commit to do the commentary, section by section, because his ideas were totally different than the other, I think, 2 authors that did the same translation at the same time. Okay, so in order to not to add controversy, he decided not to do it, and he decided just only give us only the introduction and give us open way of thinking, going to one way or going to the other way. That is the thing that I understand. Okay, so we need just to be aware. Okay, so, and I am, I feel fear. I don't know why, but it just, I don't know why, but just like.
I'm gonna tell you, Josefina, it happens to be the same when we started reading.
Yeah.
There's something that it's attracting me, but also it's like a fear of entering there. So this has doing it like we're doing it has been. It's like we're going to enter the tunnel, but first we go through certain stages, historical, whatever, until we go down into the middle of that.
I want just like, where I am, and just sometimes I feel like I need to learn not to react. I am just in the process of learning to give more time to me, just to just receive things and feel inside what happened and not to react so fast. And I am in the process. Okay, so I am okay. Just we can continue doing just what I am doing, but just it's better just to open and say.
I feel
It's
like
helping me. I mean, it's helping me just to keep growing. I'm just. I want you understand. I don't have the background. I feel like I wanted you understand. I just imagine I come from a very Catholic structure, and then I had to move away because it did not give me the other part that was missing. Okay, and I had to put a lot of energy and training and all this stuff in order to find the things to make me whole. Okay, and I did not find it in the Christian tradition. I found it just in the very ancient East tradition. And sometimes when I hear this and hear, Osindia talking, I notice that there are things from that side, okay, that is here. And sometimes I cannot express or I cannot relate in a Christian background. And sometimes I need time just to put together. And that is the thing that is going on inside of me. I know only with you, I feel in the same way when I in the group of with Cornelia, and I feel in the same way when I am in the other group of time study in advanced yoga studies, and I feel like, and my teacher told me, Josephine, we are talking similar things, but they don't have the same name. And I am in the process of understand that I have to move here and I move here, and I had to be in peace. Okay? So I wanted you to understand.
So I'm going to have to leave a
Anyway,
few minutes early,
yeah.
and both Tilly and Raul wanted to speak. I can hang on for another minute or two.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Well, Tilly,
okay.
go
what I
ahead.
wanted to say is I think that this is a useful process.
Okay.
And I think that's what I heard Josephina saying too.
Raul?
Barbara mentioned to me that Steve had expressed some kind of, you guys were here, I wasn't, but that Steve had said in some way, shape, or form that he wasn't interested in going through the introduction. He would come back when we got to the Gospel of Philip itself, which I think is too bad. And I'm just throwing this out, and I have no idea how this introduction is broken up, because I haven't looked at it overall. We've got the copy, the same PDF copy. Might it be useful to spend some time on a part of the introduction and then go to the gospel? I'm just throwing that out. See how people, if people have any interest in that. That's all. And I don't need feedback now. We can think about it for next week.
And a comment from me with regard to Raul. He will be here for at least 3 more weeks before he can go back to work. So he has no excuses for missing on Wednesday for 3 more weeks.
I need to take off, so I'll just sign off here. You can keep going. Bye.
No, it's okay. I mean, I wanted you to understand how I, right now, how I feel and how is my situation, and I am okay. Just continue, because that will help me just to keep going. Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
I think we should stop here and if we're entering the gospel.
okay.
Many thanks to all of you, because to me it matters, and you all matter very much.
Okay.
I've been going a lot
So,
and learning.
So thank you for all of you, and take care.
Bye bye, Barbara Raúl. Mejorías.
Bye.